Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports. You're joined by myself, Mark, and Reece alongside me. We've just finished practice one, the only practice session for this weekend in Sao Paulo, the Brazil Grand Prix, round 21, of course, of 23 total races. So, our first practice session is done, and we didn't really see any qualifying simulations because we know there's rain coming up in qualifying session. They're predicting that, so they're not trying to risk losing time trying to get a car right for qualifying because it's going to be quite a lot of different variables in play. So that finishes up our practice session with regards to race simulations at least. And we see the Ferraris finish up top with soft tyre runs, a 111.7 for Sainz, Leclerc in second, and Russell in third on a set of mediums.
Yes, relatively interesting in that session. As you said, no qualifying runs done because people are trying to get as much data for the race on Sunday, of course also for the race tomorrow in the sprint race, as just looking through our top 10 originally to go. Carlos Sainz goes in first with a 111.7. Charles Leclerc then in second behind him. We expect those were race runs on a set of softs because they weren't that much faster than George Russell on a 111.86. So then looking down further than that, Nico Hulkenberg up in P4. Alex Albon doing relatively well around the circuit, which we didn't think his car would suit all too much. But at least some race simulations at the moment. He's up in P5. Lance Stroll then P6. Gasly P7 in his Alpine. Zhou Guanyu in that Alfa Romeo P8. Logan Sargent doing relatively well in his Williams in P9. Then Kevin Magnussen finishing up the top 10.
Indeed. So then going to our bottom 10, Alonso in 11th. I don't think he did any runs other than hard tyre runs. Hamilton in 12th. Same story sort of thing. Tsunoda in 13th. Ricciardo in 14th. Ocon in 15th, Verstappen in 16th, Bottas 17th, Perez in 18th, and the two McLarens of Norris and Piastri right at the back there in 19th and 20th. The interesting thing, though, about the McLarens, if we go and talk about them, is they had actually put purple sectors in Sector 1 and Sector 2 on a set of softs and mediums. I think Piastri taken both those sectors, and they pulled out in the last sector and pulled into the pits, didn't finish up their laps, and that's why they're right at the bottom there. So it's very important to know that we shouldn't take any of the results in practice seriously in any race, really, and especially this weekend. Especially this weekend as well, because not a single qualifying attempt was really attempted there by any team. So all of them pretty much race runs, which means that we have absolutely no idea the sort of pace we could expect in qualifying later.
Well, something that is very, very promising, though, for this race weekend is that pace of Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
Currently up in P11 on a set of hards, but a really good lap time on a set of hards.
Exactly.
It's up on the Red Bulls times on their set of hards, so I think we should be able to watch the Aston Martins do something special, at least with Fernando Alonso this weekend.
And not just that, Russell and Mercedes on a set of medium tyres was right up there with the soft tyre runs, literally 0.025 seconds away from Charles Leclerc's time, who was on a set of softs. So it means that we could see quite a very challenging times being put in from not just Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin, but from those Mercedes. And I'm sure we'll see Red Bull very, very quick. So we've got lots of wind, we've got lots of rain predicted potentially for qualifying later. It's going to make it a very interesting session. We saw last year a similar sort of scenario happen with lots of variables happening as a result. Kevin Magnussen was our pole sitter last season in Sao Paulo, and George Russell went on to win. Pole sitter didn't win last season. I don't think we'll have the same thing happen this season. I don't think our pole sitter will win again. We could have a very different pole sitter today because of all these variables happening.
Yes, there's only a 50% chance of winning from pole here. 16 pole sitters have won around the circuit, though, in history around here. We've been coming here for a long time, so that's not a lot of conversions. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get that race win, but it does give people starting outside that top spot a little bit more confidence going into the race because they know it's not necessarily the end of everything if they don't get their car in pole.
No, indeed, exactly that. So, who were you most impressed with in terms of a team this session, in terms of the times they were putting in for race simulations?
I think maybe Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll on those hards on the Aston Martin was relatively impressive. George Russell, of course, though, on those mediums was also very impressive, but we don't know what fuel levels everyone is on. So it's very difficult to understand and make a comparison right now.
Exactly that. So I think we could see quite a lot of pace from the McLarens. Of course, they finished right at the bottom there, 19th and 20th. with their hard
But they
tire
were
runs.
doing some really fast times and then backed off.
Exactly that. So they did back off from their from their very fast runs there, and I do believe their hard tire runs, they were still sorting out some things in the car. Once they knew they had it sorted out, they didn't bother going back out in the hards. They just did one soft and medium tire run to see how quick they were, and then went back to race simulations. Just watching a replay, of course, of some of the things that happened in that session. Curbs being hit quite a lot, causing a few problems. Turn 1, quite a few drivers missed the mark. And I do think track limits will become a thing for qualifying later, especially if it's a slippery track.
I do think I agree with you. If there is a bit of rain, it's going to be very difficult to hold it over the white lines. And we could see a lot of drivers getting their track times deleted. But if it is raining, I think it's going to be quite exciting for us. So do be sure to join us in that session. Thank you for joining us throughout the first session as well. It's going to be a very busy sprint race weekend.
Yeah, exactly. A very busy sprint race weekend. Just a couple of things that did happen in that session as well, just before we end off, of course. We did see a few small events happen. We saw, was it Nico Hulkenberg and Norris make a little bit of contact. They went to contact into, I think it was turn 1 or turn 5.
12.
Okay, I was completely wrong. But certainly on one of the turns, they made a little bit of contact. Norris on a hot lap and Hulkenberg on an out lap. Nothing really came of it. It was not a huge problem for either driver. We also saw that Hulkenberg, again in the action there, his car randomly lost power after going over the curb in turn 4, which is a little bit of a concern for Haas. We saw Pierre Gasly having a little bit of a fight with his engineers right at the end of the session there, just saying, no, we'll debrief after the session, basically being told that he needed to be going a little bit quicker around and saying, I'm doing everything I can here, and it's just not quite working. So a little bit of problems for Alpine as well. So a few things happened there and thereabouts throughout the session.
A lot of degradation as well we've seen on these tyres in their race runs. So I think we're going to be getting possibly 2 stop strategies on Sunday. And because of these characteristics of the circuit, because these tyres aren't going to be able to run for too long, depending on whatever strategy you use, I think we're going to get some varying strategies on Sunday, which should make it even that much more exciting.
Yeah, exactly that. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Forever Motorsports. Our live video for qualifying later will be on our other channel, Forever Sports. We will link that in the description as well. Well, not necessarily in the description, rather in the chat. So be sure to go and check that out.
It should redirect them as well.
It will redirect you straight to that stream anyway as the end this off. So thank you so much for joining myself, Mark, and Reece alongside me. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to this channel as well as the other channel that we're doing the live on later. We'll be doing a review of qualifying back on this channel